Imagine this for a moment. The greatest military mind the ancient world ever produced does not die young. June 10, 323 BCE, Babylon, capital of empires, crossroads of civilization. Alexander the Great, undefeated, unchallenged, untouchable. Then, without warning, he collapses. A sudden fever. No battle, no blade, no explanation. He is 32 years old. Within days he is dead. No named heir, no succession plan, and the largest empire the world has ever known begins tearing itself apart before his body is even buried. For more than 2,000 years, historians have wrestled with a single question. What if Alexander had lived? What if he had another 20, 30, even 40 years? Would Rome ever rise? Would East and West merge into something entirely new? Could one man truly unify the ancient world under a single throne? Today, we step into the timeline that almost happened. If you enjoy deep cinematic history and what-if worlds grounded in real events, subscribe now, because this story changes everything. This is the world that never was. By the age of 32, Alexander had already done the impossible. He had destroyed the Persian Empire, an ancient superpower that ruled for centuries, defeated armies many times the size of his own, marched more than 22,000 miles across 3 continents, founded over 20 cities, most bearing his name, and been crowned Pharaoh of Egypt and King of Asia. And yet, the most important detail is this: he wasn't slowing down. When Alexander died, he was not at the end of his story. He was mid-sentence. Maps still covered the tables. Campaigns were already planned. On the horizon, Arabia-Carthage. Possibly a westward march toward a small rising city called Rome, and the full fusion of Greek and Persian civilization into a single world culture. This was not an aging ruler clinging to power. This was a young conqueror just entering his prime. So, let us rewind history by a single moment. The fever breaks. Alexander survives. What happens next? For the first time in his life, Alexander gained something he never had before: time. And instead of chasing another battlefield, he does something radical. He stops conquering and begins ruling. Over the next decade, he transforms chaos into structure. A unified legal system stretching from the Mediterranean to the Indus. Standardized currency and vast trade networks. A professional bureaucracy blending Greek administrators with Persian elites. Schools where philosophy, science, and governance are taught side by side. Then comes his boldest move yet: forced cultural fusion. Greek soldiers marry Persian nobility. Persian generals command Macedonian troops. The empire stops being Greek or Persian. It becomes something entirely new. There is no single capital. Power flows through the whole system. What emerges is not just an empire. It is a Hellenistic super-state, multicultural, centralized, and terrifyingly powerful. More advanced than anything Europe will see for centuries. And in this timeline, Rome never gets the chance to replace it. Now we face the inevitable question: what about Rome? In 323 BCE, Rome is not an empire. It is a regional power, still fighting its neighbors in Italy. Alexander, meanwhile, commands the most experienced army on earth. Veterans of campaigns from Greece to Egypt to India. Advanced siege technology. War elephants. And the greatest battlefield commander in recorded history. Around 310 BCE, Alexander turns west. This is not a contest. Professional war machines face citizen militias. Macedonian phalanxes meet farmers with spears. Rome falls, and with it, an entire future disappears. No Roman Republic, no Roman Empire, no Latin shaping Europe, no Roman law forming the backbone of the modern West. Instead, Europe becomes Greek. Greek language, Greek philosophy, Greek science. The Renaissance does not wait 1,500 years. It begins immediately, because the knowledge is never lost. History itself takes a different path. But conquest was never Alexander's ultimate goal. He did not erase cultures. He absorbed them. He wore Persian robes, adopted Persian customs, married into Persian royalty. His vision was not domination, it was fusion. Imagine a world where Greek philosophy develops alongside Indian mathematics. Persian administration merges with Greek political theory. Universities rise from Egypt to Mesopotamia to India. Libraries connect 3 continents in a single network of knowledge. What if geometry met algebra in 300 BCE? What if medicine, astronomy, and engineering advanced together, without interruption? Human progress accelerates, navigation improves, architecture evolves, technology leaps forward centuries early. This is not fantasy, it is a plausible future. Cut short. But even Alexander had limits. His soldiers were exhausted. By India, they refused to march further, and Alexander himself was changing. More authoritarian, more suspicious, more isolated. His generals aged. Rebellion simmered. And the greatest flaw remained unresolved. He still had no clear successor. Even if Alexander lived to 60, the empire would eventually fracture. The question is not if it collapses. The question is how much of the world it reshapes before it does. Step back and look at the consequences. If Alexander lives, Rome never dominates the West. Greek becomes the world's common language. East and West merge 1,000 years early. Science accelerates. Civilization rests on an entirely different foundation, all because of one moment. One fever, one death at 32, one future erased overnight. And here is the uncomfortable truth. We will never know whether this world would have been a golden age or a nightmare of endless conquest. Would Alexander have united humanity or destroyed it trying? Alexander did not just conquer cities. He conquered possibility. And when he died in Babylon, the world did not merely lose a king. It lost an entire timeline. The greatest irony of all, the man who changed history more than almost anyone else may have changed it even more by dying young. So ask yourself, was history saved by Alexander's death or robbed of its greatest chapter? Because sometimes the most powerful force in history is not what happened, but what almost did.